My parents were born in Illinois and then moved to Texas in 2000. I was then born in Texas a couple years later and lived there for almost a decade. And then we moved to Arkansas, lived there for 6 years. And recently, I know, we just relocated to Northern Virginia in the beginning of June. So you could say that I've seriously been all over. I'm a sophomore in high school and I love to stay up till almost 1 or 2 every morning. Sometimes I'll just have snacks, draw, or watch YouTube and somehow get into some weird crap. Like watching somebody smash a wasp nest in slow motion. One thing though is that every night I always had this weird thing to not really stay up past 2 a.m. I heavily believe in other worlds and I really don't favor to stay up until 3 a.m. I've always felt that I have a slight sixth sense, and I've never messed with anything that will contact the other side. It's weird, so I just set up this rule that I go to bed at 2 a.m. or sometime before. Our new house here in Virginia isn't anything to gawk at. My mother was always with the latest style and fashion. She's seriously considering becoming an interior designer. She absolutely despises the house with a passion. It is nowhere close to meeting her standards. We live in a patio home, basically a townhouse but much bigger, with 3 stories. A basement, a main floor, and an upstairs. Nothing really has been out of the ordinary at all. It's really a comforting home, which is why I'm so concerned and scared. Every night at some point after 2 a.m., my left window opens, the entire way up. By the time I wake up around 7 a.m., my curtains are going berserk, flying every which way from being exposed to the wind for around 5 hours. I'll get up, now at this point annoyed from this continuous pattern, and slam it shut. We unfortunately haven't installed an alarm system yet, so at this rate, nothing is scaring it off. And I sleep heavy, so. That, even though it sounds crazy, I always brushed it off. It's cool in the nights here, so it's not a bad thing. Last night though, it caught me so off guard, which is why I'm seriously considering calling the police and my parents. I finally woke up last night to my window slamming shut. I shot up out of bed so fast, it had to have echoed throughout the house. There were pools of sweat covering my body as if I was having a nightmare, but I had absolutely no recollection to anything that disrupted my sleep. I must have stared at my window for 10 minutes before I got the courage to check out what the heck had happened. I walked over to the light at my desk, switched it on, and immediately glanced back to my left window, only to notice my carpet by the window was now accompanied by such a tattered and sad-looking box. I raised my eyebrows and called as shy and faint. Hello? But there isn't any other noise. I take a breather and I try to tell myself that I'm just having a horrible nightmare from the midnight snack that I ate. Again, I was frozen in my spot. My legs were starting to wobble and my feet were starting to get that feeling of being numb due to falling asleep. I walk over and I sit down right in front of the box. It's on the verge of collapse, probably just one more hit to it. It's brown and has no label present anywhere on the outside. It looks so foreign and displaced in my vibrantly colored room. I didn't even realize that I'm holding my breath until my hands are on the lid and the top is almost all the way off. And I don't even want to begin to explain what was held on the inside. It smelled like absolute death, because it was. Inside was a dead crow, rust and dried blood everywhere, as if it was murdered in the box. But that wasn't the part that had scarred me to no end. Around its neck was a small string and a sign that read, "Kola Pa." I was about to lean over and touch the sign when I retracted, realizing that if I needed this for the police, I needed to keep my fingerprints off of it. I have no idea what this is, what it means, or what the heck is going on. I'm honestly just scared to death, and I just want to go to bed. I don't know why this is happening to me. I'm immediately sidetracked, however, to wonder if somebody had stolen anything. This thing obviously comes in every night, but it has never dropped anything off. I bolt upright, and it takes me a minute to notice that my paired stuffed animal I had gotten from South Padre Island was missing. It seems so oddly specific, like, how the heck would I notice this thing was missing? That's because it was the only thing sitting right on my windowsill next to my water bottle. And holy crap, the water's black. First the box with the weird message and the mutilated crow, my parrot being gone, and now the filtered water is black. I don't really know what to investigate first. The one thing that I have noticed though is that the only thing that was stolen was my parrot. It had placed a crow in the box. Maybe it has a thing for birds? It still doesn't all add up. I check the time and it reads 3:03 a.m. Meaning right after I fall asleep before or at 2, the thing comes. The thing could be watching me until I wake up for all I know. The next morning I approached my parents about the situation that had happened, and I got 2 very different reactions. My dad, for one, really doesn't believe in the paranormal or anything mythological for that matter. When I talk about ghost theories, he'll excuse himself from the table and not want to talk about it. My mother, however, absolutely loves the stuff. She loves reading ghost stories and watching all the horror movies that she can, and even sharing experiences she had when she was younger. So when my mom didn't say anything and was eerily calm while I was telling my experience, it kind of freaked me out. Normally she's the paranormal fanatic, and I was taken aback by how normal the story seemed to her. My dad, on the other hand, made me want to puke. I will never forget the absolute horror just written all over his face. He has such a strong exterior, and he never gets scared by a single thing. He's such a strong and fearless person. But it did switch so fast from a big smile to looking like he had just seen his own daughter get murdered right in front of him. He was white as a sheet and would not move an inch. Mouth wide agape and his legs shaking from being shoved together so hard. All the while my mom says, "It's okay, nothing to worry about. Just your night terrors, nothing to worry about, you're alive. It's all okay." They were both worrying me. They had reverse reactions of what I thought they would have. My dad, I thought, would just brush it off and act like I'm stupid and say, "Oh Lord, that stuff isn't real." Yet my mom took that reaction, even though I thought she would be freaking out about something from another world. "So we can call the police." I can't explain to you this tension and heaviness that immediately overtook the entire living room. My dad shut his mouth and his legs had stopped shaking. My mother shut her mouth and stopped talking. They each took a breather, and my dad finally got the wool to move and set his hands on my shoulders. He looked me dead in the eye and he said, "No, if we do that, it will only get angrier." And then they both got up and walked back up to their bedroom. I'm left to fend and figure out this on my own thoughts. My parents clearly know something I don't and are not fans of helping me anytime soon, as well as the police. Looks like I'm out of luck there with their help. Some of you also mentioned cameras and staying up or setting my alarm to see this thing. I have a Canon video camera and set it up on my tripod this morning so I can start it at exactly 2 a.m., as it only has an hour and a half left of footage on the SD card. And if that doesn't work, I installed this app on my phone that picks up any noises during the night that seem foreign and unfamiliar. Also, my room is actually on the 3rd floor at the very front of the house, and my window is locked every single night. But somehow that doesn't stop it though, and it opens it with ease. It is a very high drop if you measure from the floor to the top of the window, which makes the whole situation seem harder to figure out. But it also leads me to other questions. My window, since it's in the very front of the house, faces out to the rest of our neighborhood. There are patio homes all up and down the street, and the entire neighborhood contains a couple thousand homes. It's a country club, but not gated. So the patio home across the street has got to see something, right? Someone has got to see something coming to my window every single night. since my window was so high up too. Whatever this thing is has to carry phenomenal climbing or flying skills, and to be able to open up locked things. There's no way a human being can get up here. I don't think anyone would want to climb a ladder that high every single night at 2 a.m. just for kicks. It doesn't seem plausible. I also took a closer look at the crow on the sign. Kalapai stands for look at. Maybe I should actually look at this thing. Look at the crow. I'm not really sure, and since the police aren't coming anytime soon, I grabbed gloves to examine it better. And then I wondered, since bringing in a single dead crow didn't make any sense, what if it just has a thing for dead animals in general? Maybe he'll bring a different animal every night. I guess we'll see. I also took a look at the water bottle. It seemed completely normal and just tinted black and oddly warm, until I removed the cap and I took a whiff. My God, it smelled purely of what I can only describe as rotten eggs. I looked this up and it said that this could be the cause of water being hot. It usually creates a rotten egg smell, and or being high in sulfur. Or it just could be contaminated by whatever came into my room. Previously, I hadn't had water in my room until that night, so that's something to take note of. I'm going to empty small portions of the water into multiple containers, so maybe I can run some simple tests, just to see if I can actually find anything in the contaminated water, if it is even considered water anymore. It is currently 11 p.m., meaning I've got 3 more hours to prepare for this thing. I have no idea what to expect. Somebody has suggested a raven, which is possible for the flying, but I did some more research and it could also be a wendigo. These things apparently can open doors and other objects easily even though they are locked. It could even be a creature that no one has discovered yet. I feel like the possibilities are endless in this situation, and I'm just a little pawn in its big game. I have my noisemaker and my rainmaker turned off for tonight as well, so I can hear every little thing if it comes. As much as it scares me, I really want it to end so I can just have a peaceful sleep every night. Knowing that some creature comes to visit for God knows how long every night isn't very settling, as you can imagine. This is solely more of an update on what I found, and in the next one, hopefully I'll be able to explain more of what I can find. Maybe actually seeing what this thing is supposed to be. Wish me luck. 3 more hours. Thank you guys all again for the suggestions. This seriously is helping me out. I did some more research and I found out that birds and animals are a big part of Norse and Celtic mythology, and that Scandinavian folklore is the folklore of Norway and Sweden and some other countries, which might clear up why that word is written in Swedish around the crow's neck. I also looked into the differences between crows and ravens, due to the numerous people assuming it's the latter instead. I didn't realize how similar they looked, and their minor differences between the two are quite hard to notice if you're not an expert with birds. I decided to take a closer look referring to the website, and one of the main differences it had said was that ravens are noticeably bigger than crows, and have bigger, curvier beaks. And there was also a map attached to the website, and it showed that my area was slightly highlighted with where ravens reside in the US. I went back to the box and I tried to compare the bird to the website, and I eventually came to the conclusion that it's a raven, not a crow at all. I feel kinda stupid, but I want you guys to know that I live in America, and ravens just aren't that common here. It's usually crows that you see flying above, so I just automatically had assumed that it was a crow. Anyway, here's what happened last night. After I posted the last update last night at 11 p.m., I had sat under my covers for 3 hours straight. I could not move and I couldn't think, and I could barely process what was going on. I just so badly wanted this all to be a bad dream. I wasn't able to fall asleep, knowing what would go down in the next 3 hours. I waited and I waited. I kept checking my phone until 1:59 a.m. I slowly descend out of my bed and I turn my camera on to press record. I turn my phone on and it immediately opens to the audio app that I had just set up earlier. I bolt to my bed realizing that it was 2 and I throw the covers over my head. As much as I was told to look at it and want to figure out what it was, being a wimpy teenager, I was just ready to chicken out right at that moment. I'm ready to lay down and try to calm myself from being irrational when I hear the window slide open. It was agonizingly slow. How though? I made sure to triple check that the locks were shut. However, it didn't even seem to delay any further action of this thing. Eventually, I hear the window hit the top, so I now know that it's wide open. I take a shuddery breath and I brace myself. I am shaking under my covers and I'm praying to something that I won't die tonight. I know that it knows that I'm awake. I don't hear a single noise, and if somebody were to drop a pin, you would pretty much be able to hear it. My hands become clammy, and every time I clench them, it becomes stickier and stickier. My hair is sticking to my forehead and some in my mouth, but I don't dare to move, knowing what's probably staring at me at my window. Nothing happens for what feels like hours. Had the thing left? Is it done coming into my... A click. I hold my breath. That was the sound that the video camera makes when somebody presses the end button. And then a crash. And that was the sound of my tripod hitting the floor. Like many paranormal instances and creatures, I know there's always been a record of them not liking to be filmed. Maybe it knew. At this point, I just wanted to curl up into a ball and die. I didn't even care at this point. I just want to be out of this situation and completely forget this entire scenario altogether. Tears are slowly cascading down my cheeks, but I quickly wipe them off and I toughen up. This thing obviously won't hurt me as it comes in every night. So you know what I do? I rip off my covers out of pure confidence and adrenaline, and my confidence shot down so fast. In front of me was a massive creature. It was so dark that I could not see a single dang thing, so all I know is that it was huge and extremely well built. It just stared me down. I may have not seen any features, but anybody could tell if they were being glared at by this massive creature. Pretty sure that it was awfully noticeable. It made a sudden and utter snarl and sniffed the air, looking towards the ceiling of my room. I take this advantage to slowly sink back into my bed, and I throw the covers back over my head. Once complete, I let out a sigh and I prayed that this thing would go back out of my window. What I did not pray for was for it to rip my covers straight back off. I had never been so scared in my life, and I wouldn't even wish this on my worst enemy. It was still staring at me, like it could see into my soul. I honestly was glad that I couldn't see any of its features and just a mass shadow. It makes it slightly better, knowing this thing could look horrifying, but I'm saved from seeing it due to how dark it is. It moves barely an inch and makes this unrecognizable sound. It wasn't even loud, just so strange and mangled it covered me with goosebumps. But still, it just continued to stare at me. I break my gaze to look at my camera on the ground, completely toppled over and not recording anything. The beast snarls. I whip my head so fast back to the thing. I at this point am done with tonight. The sight of this thing could make anybody faint, and I just wanted to leave. I have enough evidence for what it was, so I muster every ounce of courage that I have and I take a breath, and I firmly ask it, "Please go away." It doesn't move. "Go away, now." It steps the slightest bit closer. "Do you even understand me?" "Yes." It spoke in a soft and disgruntled tone, but you could barely tell. It was so gravelly and non-human sounded it would probably seem like a hard grunt if you weren't really listening. I about melted into myself. Somehow, I jumped up and I bolted out of my room, not looking back. As far as I remember, I was so tired that I couldn't tell what was real and wasn't. I ran downstairs into the living room and I cowered into the couch. I put on the TV and I was wide awake for the next few hours. But when I finally started to drift off, I swore that I saw something standing on the top of the stairs, watching every single move that I made. I think I just invited this thing into the entire house and not just my room. I woke up on the couch the next morning, startled from what had happened the previous night. I knew that my parents knew something about this and they were hiding it from me. Since we had just relocated, we've lately still been moving things around and unpacking boxes left and right. So I took this advantage to casually bring up the conversation while bringing clothes up to my mother's room. I started with small talk. I did want the answers urgently. However, I didn't want to spring the question on them. It might have drove them farther away from telling the actual truth. I did eventually get to the question though. Why is that thing so invested in me every night? I have to know, please. They both stopped their movements and my mom dropped all the clothes she was holding onto the floor. Mom, you don't need to know. My dad stayed silent. But why? This thing will only freak me out even more and it doesn't seem like it'll leave anytime soon. For some reason, it is so invested with me that it follows me everywhere. It got so bad that after having to stare down with it for what seemed like a couple of hours, I had to move downstairs to the living room. It even followed me down here. So what do you want to save? My knowledge on this thing or my own sanity? Wait. You left your door open at night and let this thing to the rest of the house. This time it was my dad, now mouth agape and white as paper. Yeah, why? I had to escape somehow. Sit down. I think we've chosen to save your sanity instead. My heart started to thump out of my chest with anticipation. I'm finding out the real reason that this is actually happening. After so many months of being watched by this thing, I may finally find out a way to get it to leave, once and for all. I pull out the kitchen chair and I wait patiently for my parents to accompany the seats next to me. First of all, we apologize. We didn't want you to lose sleep over what we tell you in fear might freak you out. It seems though that it's far too late to even save that. It's okay, I guess. I'm still not fully trusting anything until I have a feeling in my gut that I believe it. That's understandable. Honey, take it away. This all starts with you. Okay, when I was your age, every night, I would mess with other worlds. I would try to talk to them, use mirrors, use Ouija boards by myself to make it work even better. I mean, sure, I got some story-worthy situations, but nothing compared to the night that it started at all. I was 15 and really stupid, and I decided that shooting birds with BB guns could make a great sacrifice for contacting the other world. That maybe it would give me more of a chance to talk to them. Sometimes sacrifices attract more ghosts and they take it as an offer for them. So I went out late one afternoon, grabbed the gun, and I sat for a good half hour waiting for a bird to fly by. As one did, I shot up out of my chair and I pressed the trigger as quickly as I could. The bird slammed onto the pavement and I put it into a grocery bag. I left it outside until it was dusk and then I brought it into my room. My board was all set up, and I placed the bird right in front. Is anyone here? The blanket had rapidly moved to yes. Do you want to harm me? This time it was more reluctant to move, but resulted in a no. Will you leave me alone after I say goodbye? It had moved to a no. Well, why not? It then moved to follow. Okay, so where do things start to take a turn for the worse? I finally asked. Well, eventually, after a few nights, I completely forgot the entire situation and I finally started to sleep again. Until I noticed I could hear my window open every night very late. That lasted for around another 15 years and stopped as soon as you were in my stomach. I never wanted to tell my parents in fear of letting them know what I do every night. They were highly against everything I did in the first place, as they had talked to me about those topics before I was ever even interested. I think that since it latched onto me when I was your age, I might have passed it on to you. I really didn't want to tell you because I didn't think you would believe me and I didn't want my fear to end up happening to you. I'm sitting there staring at the table, gobsmacked by the entire situation. But it almost makes no sense. How has it still followed us 15 years later? Why did it latch onto me now? Didn't you try to get rid of it? And do you even know what the thing is? It was because all of those rituals and constantly contacting the other side. I was very spiritual in every way and I opened myself to them. Seriously a bad mistake. And due to this, I have a slight feeling it's aching for revenge in some way to get back for disturbing it all these years. But you haven't messed with anything, so I don't know why it's only getting stronger. And also no, I never tried to get rid of it because of my parents. If I wanted to try to get rid of it, I would have tried some sage and other spiritual items. They didn't have much money then, and besides, they would have been extremely suspicious of what I was doing. And finally, no, I do not know what this thing is. I've never actually seen it face to face. I was just so scared that I tried to sleep through it every night. I've seen it. What? Yeah, the other night I decided to try to stay up and catch it, and it ended up staring me down for the longest time. Shit. What? I may not know what it is, but I know well enough that you're not supposed to let it look at you like that. When you do that, it sees you, the inside of you and what you're thinking. Your thoughts, your likes, your fears. My parents paused and looked at each other, and then they said, "You let it in the house." A lump builds up in my throat and it's getting harder to swallow. When did the rug become so interesting? You invited it into the house. Now it will probably show up anywhere at any time during the night. It came through the one barrier connecting through the rest of the house. We're done for. No, maybe not. Stay calm. We just need to act fast now. We should try to find some methods to see if we can ward it off. We'll get through this together, okay? Okay, they muttered. Just as I think that I might have a plan, I can hear something coming from upstairs. I can hear it slowly creak down the stairs one step at a time. And that snarl, that all too familiar snarl. I thought that I could do something to stop this, but it looks like I've already done enough. Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have stayed up late and I should have just trusted what my gut told me. I can now feel it breathing down my back and my parents' expressions are frozen. I turn to face it for one last time.